Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Lakers, of course, been talking about them all life long, of course. But it's one of those situations where right now we are just still sitting here waiting for the team to address the fans. I think that's what needs to happen. I really do. I want to hear about a team meeting. I want to hear about people recalibrating what it is that they're doing. I want to hear people being frustrated, throwing things in the locker room. I want to hear people caring. This is why the regime that the Lakers have in place running everything is the wrong regime, you guys. I think we're there. It's not even about the moves even anymore. It's about the availability at this point. It's about the addressing of the fans. It's about helping us understand what it is that you may or may not be looking at. The Lakers have a good habit of allowing third parties to speak for them. It's a good habit because you don't always want to speak on behalf of what it is that's going on, every little thing you got to react to. But it becomes a bad habit when things have gone wrong and it looks like you're hiding. When all of us can see things have gone wrong, we can all see that you're hiding. So it's one of those situations where it's like, are you going to address the elephant in the room? And that is that this team isn't even close to being competitive. And there are things we could do about that we're not seeing. And all of it. I mean, I've been making videos myself. Everybody who talks about this team has made videos talking about how we would like to see small ball come to an end. And you know what I expect to see in the very next game? The small ball that I've told everybody I want to stop seeing 4 games ago. 2 seasons ago. And I just think that small ball is something the Lakers go to when everything is falling apart and they want to prove to everybody that they cannot compete without Anthony Davis. It just seems like that's what I've concluded. It's one of those situations where it's like, look, we want people to believe beyond the shadow of a doubt that we can't compete without this guy. That's what it is. Why that is the case, speculation here, speculation there. I haven't come up with any conclusion that I'm confident with. But that is what I've concluded, that the Lakers definitely want to appear as if they cannot function at all without Anthony Davis. So I'm at a point where I'm like, that mind game is garbage. That's a garbage lie that we're running around out there for God knows what reason. And I just know that we have better combinations of players that can give us a better chance of winning these games without making trades, without doing anything. We've seen lineups that we could lean on, and we just haven't seen those lineups being returned to. And it's at a point where fans are starting to wonder if we should even watch the next games. Like, if the next game comes on and I have something better to watch, I might want to just watch that other thing and catch the game's highlights and do it that way, instead of wasting 3 hours of my time in a game that I know the Lakers have no interest in winning and aren't going to be honest about. You know what I'm saying? That's what 5 guards on the floor tells me. And the thing is, you guys know, if you follow me, I didn't get a chance to watch that game very closely. I watched the 4th quarter of that game very closely. A portion of the 3rd quarter, I was in and out, because the links just weren't working on Christmas Day. The first half, I didn't see hardly any of that. And my understanding of the 3rd quarter and how the halftime thing went, because I didn't lay eyes on it, I was confused about how that 3rd quarter went. Of course, I spoke to you guys about it at halftime, said we were doing well, told y'all to score, but for whatever reason in the after video, the correlation that we were up by 13 and then went down by 10, I didn't realize that. I knew they had a 51-point quarter, but the two things didn't come together, that we had blown such a big lead. It just didn't register in my head, and that's why I was frustrated, because you see the games, when you get a chance to see the games from 48 minutes, you don't forget stuff like that, or you don't remiss to understand things like that took place. But if you leave it up to me and my math, I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten in that 3rd quarter, how we had blown a 13-point lead, then proceeded to give them a 22-point lead. And I'm just sitting here like, the Los Angeles Lakers, this is not a byproduct of them not being able to rotate players properly with what they had yesterday. It's just not, man. It's just, that's not what we had the option of doing for ourselves. Is looking that bad. That wasn't the only thing we could have did. And acting like it is leaves the fans feeling like their intelligence is being insulted. Those of us who follow the team closely. But I'm starting to believe, as I'm watching these games, not necessarily the Lakers, but the NBA as a whole. As I'm watching these games, I'm starting to realize that they don't necessarily cater any of what it is that they're doing today for the following of franchises. Like your team, you love your team. That's not who they're catering the game to. They are literally catering the game to the guys who barely watch, who barely care, who only follow players from place to place to place to place. And my thing is, if you are going to focus on players, then you need to revamp the entire way the system works. The whole thing needs to be reimagined completely, because what you have is a bunch of people who've been here for 25, 30 years who still think this is about them and their teams, who still think teams are on a quest to win championships, when the reality is the championship is a byproduct of a bunch of other stuff that has to come together for them to have that synchronized schedule that they're looking to have throughout the course of the year, including playoffs, certain matchups they want to see, certain players they want to see in certain situations, certain scenarios that come about once certain moves are made that create new dreams for these narrative creators to imagine. And that's really the sport we're watching. It's the creation of narratives and the manipulation of numbers at the same time, and that's why I'm starting to get to a point where I'm like, look, I know betting is a big business in the NBA. I understand that, and that's what I think is driving a lot of what we're seeing. But they got to be very careful as to not be so obvious to manipulate the games to a point where a person like myself who's watching can sit up and tell everybody in the camera, you shouldn't bet a single dollar on these games. You should not. Unless you can figure out the algorithm from which they're working, you shouldn't even be betting on these games. That business, that what they're leaning on, in a way, they're pushing the people away from it by doing it so obviously screwy, if that makes any sense. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, if I'm going into a situation where I know the dice game is rigged, or I know I'm not going to walk away with the money regardless if I play, then the desire to play is removed. So you can do all this stuff to fix the game so that people who play lose, but what you're going to find out is that 9 out of 10 people are smart enough not to play. That's what the NBA is going to run into. It's like, you can't rig the game to a point where it's so obvious that I don't even want to play. It's like what's going on in the stock market. It's like what's going on in crypto. It's exactly what's going on. It's like the markets are so rigged and so screwy. It's just like, it doesn't even matter if I believe in the crypto. It doesn't even matter if I believe in what the company is. I can't trust the markets. So why the hell am I buying anything ever? I can't. Because I know they're manipulating the markets themselves. So to look at the NBA as a parallel to me, I'm just like, well, I can enjoy the games, but as if I'm enjoying a movie. It's scripted. It's going to turn out however the way they want it. And just enjoy the charade, And if you're looking at for basketball like X's and O's and real sport, and you're trying to see if rebounds can lead to buckets and all that, don't watch the NBA. That's where we're at. Don't watch that. Because what they're doing is trying to assure that the numbers look a certain way, so they're calling certain fouls, they're letting certain guys get to the line, they're fudging the rules a certain way so certain guys can't move a certain way to have a certain advantage. And that's another thing. It's like, I believe what I'm looking at is the game's rules have been phasing the athlete out, and they're trying to make it so that more people who aren't athletic like myself can find their way into the league and get the big bags by being able to shoot from far away. So it's one of those situations where it's like the guys who are really, really entertaining and the guys who were blessed by God to be able to jump out the gym, they don't want to pay them dudes no more. That's what I think is happening here. They don't want to pay them dudes. They don't see the value in them dudes like that. I don't think they think those dudes are that smart or whatever. I think that's like the stereotype that goes on. It's like the leapers are leapers, but they're not really going to give you the fundamentals. So what they're trying to do is pull the game away from those guys. So if they can't shoot from distance, or if they don't have them fundamentals, then all that stuff that they can do, them first steps, all of that juking and all that stuff that Iverson was able to do, you're not going to be able to take advantage of people with your God-given ability unless you are able to dumb it down in such a way that allows dudes that are slower than you and guys who are not as talented as you to keep up with you. That's what the NBA has done. Because you look at these first step travel rules, they don't make no damn sense. A guy catches the ball and then puts a step down and then dribbles second. First of all, if a defender is coming at you a certain way at a certain angle, you're going to, in order to get past that person, you're going to want to dart left or dart right as they're coming at you. They're removing your ability to have that first step because now essentially you have to be able to dribble first before you put the ball on the floor. But that's not a natural motion. That's not a natural motion. The game is reactionary. So what ends up happening is I got to be able to go like this as soon as he comes at me. If I'm putting the ball on the floor, that's a second delay in my ability to do what I need to do to have the latency of the play go right. They know that. And they know that athletes, the Kyries and the Allen Iversons, they're unguardable. They're absolutely unguardable by some of these dudes that they want to bring into the league and actually pay. Can't guard them. You got to keep going to the hood. You got to keep going to the rural spaces to find these leapers because that's where they at. And they know that. You can't go to Europe, find them dudes. They're not there. You can't go to Cowlick. You're not going to find them there. But they want those dudes more so represented in the league. They want those dudes. They want those faces. So this is one of those situations where, like, I get what I'm seeing. So they want to tell you how far and away Luka Doncic shot the ball from 30 feet to 27 feet, even though you know damn well that doesn't do anything for those who are actually trying to learn the game and figure out how best to strategize to win. It doesn't matter how far you shot the ball away. In fact, you should probably be stepping further closer in so you'll have a higher opportunity to succeed. Because the further away you are, the less likely you are to make the shot. We all know that. We all know that. When someone shoots 40% from the three-point shot, from the three-point line, we're excited. Is 40% good in anything else? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if it's a game being played by the percentages, then why the hell are we funneling everybody toward the three-point line? If not for some screwy agenda. So this is what I'm talking about. It's like, man, as I look at all this and I see it, and I look in the media and they're telling you players are worth certain things, it's like, all right, well, I've surmised that worth is based on the system that the player's in, and the players next to the player ultimately tell you how well a player's playing. So I look at a guy like Dennis Schroeder, and he's having a good season. But if you look at his plus minus every night, he's doing bad. Why? Because he's stuck next to players who can't defend next to him. So as a result, he's going to look horrible in every lineup that those guys are in with him, whether he's playing well or not individually. So these type of things affect a guy's ability to have a value high enough to be traded. These things affect all kinds of stuff that they don't want to leave to chance. That's what we often have to understand. A lot of these things are wrapped up in guarantees. Guaranteed Nike contract makes it so that this guy has to be a star no matter what. Here's the freaking problem. What if so-and-so comes out of nowhere from the G League and is literally better than this dude? Like literally better. Then what? How do you guarantee all of the contract stuff for that team, for that player when somebody else just popped up? Now he's taking half the minutes. Now the game is actually more cohesive because he's a better player. But you can't really sell that because he already gave this so-and-so $100 million for the shoe deal. Now he needs to be featured every night. He definitely needs to be playing the Christmas Day game, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not what's going on. That doesn't actually align with what's best for what's on the court. But no one cares because they have to guarantee what was going on in them contracts with Nike and this and that and the third. So you're seeing a jambalaya in a million different directions of that crap in 2022 on the basketball floor. From every direction. A million different players doing this, having this same thing going on all over the place. And people's leverages and then the little reindeer games is what I call them basically with the agents who have yesterday's deals that they did now coming into play today. So certain players are on the floor because they doing a elbow nudge deal, thank you deal, make up for something that you did 5 years ago. And you're seeing players on the floor not getting opportunities because it's kind of politics. And so it's like, it's so screwy to everybody's just fine with it. So you sit over there, look on the floor, LeBron James down the floor with 4 guards and himself, you know what I mean? At the end of a game on Christmas Day, he done ran around, did nothing. And at the end of the game, he's happy. You look at him, he's smiling over there with Anthony Davis. Nobody's upset. Why is nobody upset? Because this crap been screwy the whole time. And they all been used to it. They were probably appalled in year 2 when he found out the NBA was compromised. At this point, it's like, bro, this made us rich. What we mad about? Y'all the ones still believe in this crap. We rich. Keep rooting for your teams. And we'll herd you in a certain direction soon enough. You'll love something else soon enough. And that's how I feel like it is for us. As fans, it's like we have these passions and all these different things. These people getting rich. They don't care. They're passing this money off to their kids. They losing. So what, bro? You care about that, fan, and you're paying into it. We're getting paid. Like, good luck. And so I start to realize that nobody care about the science like that.
And so, as we've been discarded, we have to discard the people who are doing this. The way I see it is, you're discarding a generation of people who care. So we need to discredit what it is that you're doing for balance. So that's what it is. I'm pointing out all the bad business, or whether it is that I perceive to be trashy business, basketball, fluff, machine music type stuff. You know how we talk about the machine and music and how they got so many propped up pop stars that they give these random overused musical riffs that they continue to give to the American public, and you hear the song, you love it, but you don't realize that you've heard that same rhythm 106 times. And this is the rhythm that they give everybody, that gets everybody turned up because they've trained us to be loving of this type of cadence. But it's not anything new. It's just something catchy. And so, you buy it, you hear it, they tell you to love it, and you do. Same thing with this. Exact same thing. They've taken all the substance out of it, all the talent out of it, and they've incorporated their politics into it, which means certain things got to be done at a certain time, which means that it has to be compromised to be guaranteed. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. People not leaving things up to chance. I'm going to rig the game to assure that I can meet my contractual obligations and to make sure that the guy next to me can meet his contractual obligations in an entirely different business situation. And together, it all works out. And what gets left behind? The integrity of the sport being played. The last thing on the list of importance. The sport itself. You know what I'm saying? So people like Michael Jordan and, Kobe Bryant, all their numbers and stuff, you're being compared to people who didn't play the game itself at all. With respect to them running around, they're not competing. Like I said, this is synchronized swimming as far as I can tell. Both teams are in cahoots along with the referees to simultaneously put together a rigged product. That's what it is. Somebody tell me that's not what this is. Somebody prove to me that what I'm seeing isn't corruption coming from that angle, corruption coming from that angle, corruption coming at me from the media, and corruption coming from behind me with them ticket sales. It's corruption everywhere. And it comes together to compromise and cheat the ancestors out of the actual credit that they deserve in comparison to these guys. That's what it does. It cheats the old G's out of their credit. You get to sit up here and say, Isaiah Thomas, he ain't quite as good as John Morant because, and then you realize John Morant plays in an era where if he ran around with Isaiah Thomas, he'd probably be out for a season because they'd have hit him in the throat. They'd have hit him in the throat. As soon as he tried to line. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I respect these dudes. And if they had a chance to play in the era's rules that those guys played in, that didn't have the business, super scientific rigging of the game, we would really see if these dudes can really hack it with them boys. We could really see. You know what I'm saying? But I'm done trying to act as if a qualifier isn't necessary when comparing these eras. After what I've been seeing this Christmas, just this Christmas day alone makes it so that I don't feel comfortable saying you today better than anybody back then, because y'all ain't playing the same sport. They was actually playing ball. Y'all dancing. Y'all dancing. And so, people don't like what I'm saying, change it. Do something. Do something about it. You know what I'm saying? But you're not going to do that because you have to be able to guarantee everything's done the right way, and this person got to be able to get that money, and that plan is going to be 10 years down the road, and because we're able to do this formula right now with this star, we're going to be able to do it twice as big with that star later on. So it just has to happen that way. And as a result, 5 guards on the floor. Despite seeing 7-footers everywhere. It's corruption, man. They want who they want. They want to pay who they want. They want people to be who they want them to be while performing the way they want them to perform. And anything outside of that is a problem. We saw that with Kyrie. It ain't enough for him to be himself. Nope. You got to be yourself while being what you want us to be. And that is why I think they're trying to phase certain people out. Because they know as long as they're getting talent from certain places, they ain't going to never get that full compliance. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're not going to uphold your bull crap. We're not going to adhere to nonsense. We're not going to, whatever it is, that's not what you're going to find. Nah. So what I think they're hoping to do is remove this element and bring in a more compliant element. That's what I think they want. A more international element, something that would pull them away from all of this and more into something that's a bit more diverse. Quite honestly. And that's something I've been seeing for a long time. And I'm okay with it because it's a lot of great ball being played all over the world. So you're going to still get great product, but you can understand who they're phasing out. It's obvious. It's obvious. When you see the travel calls, you can tell who they're phasing out. It's not even about the calls, it's the rules. Forget the calls. The calls are just what they're told to do. It's the rules that are imagined that give you this understanding. They got the analytics to say, okay, this dude's going to be way too fast for half them dudes we're going to put in front of him. You know what I'm saying? But he's, so let's just make sure that he can't step a certain way, because as long as he's able to do that step, he's going to break 7, 8, 9 dudes' ankles every night. Now that's his gift. That's why he should be down there, and the other dudes that y'all trying to put down there shouldn't be, because he can do that. But instead, y'all going to be like, now let's dumb it down. Let's make the rules different so that he doesn't have as much of an advantage with the talent that God gave him, so that we, the gods ourselves, the human gods, can enact our will on this sport. So I say people playing God always dumbs it down and makes it a lot worse than it has to be. Whatever it is, if it's a level 10, when they insert their ambition, their godless ambition, it's going to go down to a level 4. They're just going to bring down the evolution of what it is you're looking at every single time. It's what it is. And no matter what walk of life it is, it's always the same thing. Evil always works the same way, no matter what. And if you notice, always the same way. And in this case, it's exploiting the talented to a point, and then phasing out the talented when you get what you want out of the talented, and then proceed to bring in who you'd actually want to be talented if you had a choice. That's how they always do. In music, sports, everything's always the same way. Always. So, this is just another form of that, man. If you can shoot from 50 feet away, they're excited about you. Very. Now, of course, if you can jump out of the gym, they're really excited about you. But you got to be the very cream of the crop. Other than that, they want you to be able to shoot. Now, what does that do to the game? I don't know, because the game is a fluid game. The game can be played a million different ways, and it's reactionary. So if you get too far out into the paint, to the three-point line, people are just going to find a way to push you back into the paint, which I think is ultimately what's going to happen. But as long as they keep fudging up the numbers, or rather fudging up the rules, they can keep the natural reaction or the natural evolution of the sport from actually happening. You see what I'm saying? Your long three-point shooting crap is going to be met with a certain level of defense that's going to find a way to master that somehow. It's going to evolve to allow that to happen, just like in everything else in life. With human beings, we adapt to what it is we're facing. No matter how difficult it is, you give us enough time to deal with the repetition of what it is, and eventually we're going to make ourselves ready for it. Even if you're out in the sun for 100 years, your skin's going to become more leathery. It's the same thing. The sport. You do certain things, and the game's going to figure it out. And so, with this era, essentially what I'm explaining to you is they're not going to allow the game to figure it out. They're just going to keep seeing the game be stagnant when this three-point era, because the game is just meant for the numbers to be high so that the revenue could come in. But as I speak in circles, once we realize the game is not actually like this, once we realize that Devin Booker ain't actually shooting like Michael Jordan, that you just allowed him to just kind of have more space to do what he does, then we're not going to be as excited about seeing DB. I hate to point out DB because that's not fair. But you see what I'm saying? He's from this era. That's the point. I'm saying, so you enter Trae Young, you can put all their names in there. Everybody in the era pretty much is falling victim to this compromised crowd. And it's taken away their ability to appear as competitors all time. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching.